coming to you live from the City of Angels, Los Angeles, California. It's the Sheena Metal Experience with your host, Sheena Metal.
Hi, and welcome to the Sheena Metal Experience, only on Parapod TV. Welcome to our new network, Parapod TV. This is our very first show on Parapod. Parapod also airs my Messages from Spirit show. This is the first time the Sheena Metal Experience has been here. And we're on the Roku channel and many other places. And I'm very excited to be a part of this wonderful new network and to bring my show there. I'm Sheena Metal, and I'm a psychic medium. I'm an interfaith minister. I'm an energetic healer. I'm a 29-year talk radio host in Los Angeles and beyond. I'm a creative and a performing artist and a paranormal survivor. And I come to you live from my home in Southern California. Now every Wednesday at 3 o'clock Pacific time. New network, new time. So happy to be here. This show is about spirituality. It's about creativity. It's about humanity. It's about passion. It's about service. It's about becoming and then maintaining being your best you in this big, beautiful world, and always inspiring others to do the same. And every week on the show, it may be my show. It is the Sheena Metal Experience after all, but that doesn't mean it's not always and forever your experience. My guest is just wonderful, and I've had him on so many of my shows. And I think the world of him, and I will continue to have him on so many of my shows. He is a spiritual being in his own right, very wonderful. He's also a terrific author and speaker. And of course, you know him from many paranormal investigative shows and many paracons around the world. And just enjoy. The wonderful Dustin Pari is here. I'm so glad to always have you here, my friend.
Thank you so much, Sheena. Pleasure to be here, and I'm thankful for your friendship and to be kicking off the new network here for you.
Isn't that exciting? Yes, and it's funny. I didn't even know when I booked you that was going to be the kickoff.
Right, that's worked out.
New year, new network, and I'm going to tell you, it's so nice it's just nice to have a show, period. But It's so nice to be able to be on your TV and you've got your apps and you click on your app there it is. I think that makes you feel like you've skyrocketed to the next level of existence.
That's right. Off to the next level. Fantastic.
Exactly. So I'm super thankful for that. It seems so real when it's on your TV. I only wish my mother had lived to see that, because she would always say, I got a new show. Can I find it on the TV?
Right.
So now she knows I got one she can find on the TV. So it's a good thing. How are you, my friend? How are you? What are you looking forward to this year?
Oh, I'm doing very well. Been very busy. Had a great 2023. Family's all well. Everything's doing the best we can. We had a couple little things going on last year, and unfortunately, my mom passed away, and so that was that's always different. But I really feel like with my spiritual understandings and things, like obviously I miss her, but at the same point, I'm like, it's not as difficult as I thought it would be, because I have that understanding of her being in a better place, her still being able to interact. And for me, honestly, so many times I want to pick up the phone and call her, like, stupid things. Like I always used to call her when I would leave the dentist to tell her I didn't have any cavities, So like I left the dentist this summer and I'm like, oh, it's like, so I just looked at my passenger seat in my truck. I'm like, Mom, no cavity. Usual thing, but yeah, so we get through the holidays and all that, and I always tell people, because I know holidays can be very difficult. Even if it wasn't your first year of loss with somebody, sometimes just remembering if you lost somebody around the holidays, it's difficult. But I always give the advice, and it's the first time I actually had to take it myself. Like, find something to celebrate for them. If you don't want to celebrate, don't. But I think if people really enjoy the Christmas season or whatever it might be for you, it's a nice thing to celebrate in their honor, in their memory, do something they really liked, And I remember my mom used to drive me around and look at Christmas lights as a kid and listen to music. So I did that. So it was different. And now we're here in 24, and we're booking things up, and I'm very thankful to say this will be the first place that I'm actually announcing it publicly, but I will be heading out on a national tour, possibly international tour, because we may do some dates up in Canada. But I'm going to be doing a lecture tour, all paranormal, spiritual stuff, and we're going to be doing 35 presentations, I believe, in a 7-week patch between late March and mid May. So stay tuned to my website for that. We'll be announcing all the dates very soon. But yeah, so we're going to be very busy, and I'm very thankful to have that on top of all the Paracons and all those things. And yeah, we'll have a good time.
That's wonderful. And I'm very sorry about your mom. I understand
Yeah.
she's still in a place she's there. She's just in a different place. Mine,
Yeah.
it will be 8 years on March 11th. So I know that your life is forever different without your mom.
Right. Yeah, for
It
sure.
doesn't mean it can't be amazing, but
Right.
it's forever a little bit different, and it takes
Yeah.
a used to. And but I know that me being able to contact her and speak with her from where she is, and her coming to me kind of right away, like about an hour after she passed,
Yeah.
not even, it helped the grieving process, because
For
it's
sure.
nice to know that they're still with you. They're just in a different place. And we didn't live in the same city as each other for almost 30 years. So most of our conversations were on the phone. I
Yeah.
kind of feel like it's the same way. It's just a different phone,
Right. I love that. Yeah, for sure.
It's
I,
so
I
important.
I'm very thankful for having that type of spirituality and that type of understanding. Just like you said, where you feel like there's still that connection. It's there. And I mean, honestly, my mom wanted to die at home, and so we brought her back from the hospital, and we went through the hospice thing, and I was taking care of her there with the medications because my father couldn't bring himself to do it,
Sure.
and so I was there staying over and helping them with that. And the day she passed, I had to call the funeral parlor to come take her, and it was, of course, torrential rains and flooding. So even though the place was 10 minutes away, they're like, it's going to be over an hour because we just can't get through the roads. And so it's a strange time, like mom's deceased in the living room, dad's crying in the kitchen. And I was like, what do I do here? Like, I'm the only other family member. And
Right.
Italian household, so we eat our feelings. So I made dad some pasta. It's like, here and eat. And I was going back and forth between the two. And I had the oldies radio station on Pandora, and hour and change later, knock, knock, here's the Undertaker's men. And they, come and check out where she is. And they go to get the stretcher or whatever. And the moment they walked through the door, now we're on an oldie station, but it plays a country song, and it's the song I most closely would relate to my mother in my childhood growing up, and it was "Crazy" by Patsy Cline. And literally, the moment they walked through that door, that song came on all of a sudden. And I was like, "Nice touch, mom."
Yes.
It's her
Yes.
little way, I think, of signaling, and I love those kind of little things, those little signs.
Yes.
And signals.
The same thing with my mom too. It was Ray Stevens' "Everything Is Beautiful."
Oh,
She used
nice.
to sing that song to me when I was little. She loved that song so much. And sure enough, the week that she died, I probably heard that song 40 times on the radio.
Yeah.
It's weird how that happens. Things to not miss them so much.
Right. Yeah, for
But
sure.
it,
It's very comforting.
just the functional, I think the spiritual part of it is easy.
Hmm.
I'm an only child, and I was her only relative, so I did everything.
Right.
It's the earthbound part that I think is weird. Like you said, waiting for the funeral parlor to come.
Yeah.
It's that stuff that is strange.
Right. Well, because we very much, I have a lecture about this called Once Upon Death and Dying. We very much outsourced our death. Like, it used to be a family thing. We would take care of it. And of course, it was very dated to the times, but the women of the house would normally take care of the deceased, washing them, preparing them for burial, waking them in the home, all that kind of thing. And now we've outsourced this. Now you just call when someone comes. So it's like a reverse DoorDash kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah.
It's very, very strange. But and of course, being a paranormal investigator, and this isn't to be macabre or funny or anything, but like mom knows what I did and she liked it. I'm like, I'm just going to leave the recorder running if you want to leave any messages while you're hanging out here, or if any other family members that came to greet you are here.
Yeah.
And there wasn't any, but I was like, well, I'd be I'd be remiss if I didn't try,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
who wouldn't want that, And
Yeah,
I didn't think it was dark or twisted in any way. I was like, Mom appreciated what we did, and I've had sessions there at her house, rapping sessions and things, so she could hear from past members of her family because she was very nervous about dying. She was worried about no one being there for her, and I was able to bring forward members of the family to comfort her. And one of my dad's friends randomly showed up too. He's like, "Why is he here?" I was like, "Sometimes they just see the light on and they show up, But it was cool because he identified himself by his childhood nickname that my dad had given him, so that was kind of fun. But yeah, so it is a strange thing because yeah, we don't deal with that. We don't deal, and I mean, even being an EMT and working, in hospital situations and stuff before, like I've seen people pass away, but it's definitely different when it's a family member and when it's in your own home. It's a hospital's one thing because they pass, you say your goodbyes, you leave the room, and that's it. Your hands are clean of everything else. But so it was a different thing, and even administering the hospice medications and stuff. But I was like, this is what she wanted, and I'm thankful that I'm able to help her with that, to comfort her with that. So
yeah. There was so much beauty and so many weird signs and so many strange things in my mom's death that if I was not a believer, I certainly would have become one uh,
mhm,
from that situation,
yeah,
because it was so very spiritual, her death. I mean, watching someone's body end is never a spiritual thing. That's an awful thing to watch no matter how it happens.
yeah,
But watching it was it was an overcast night. It looked like it was going to rain. I was sure it was because everything in my family happens when it rains.
yeah.
And then just as the sun was rising, the clouds parted and this beam of light came through her hospital window and hit her right in the solar plexus. And I
Mhm.
saw her soul shoot up out of her body and then she was dead. And as soon as she was dead, the clouds went back and the sun went away.
Wow,
You can't
that's
make
amazing.
that up, right? So then
No,
I'm
no,
driving home and I keep thinking, where's the rain? Where's the rain? It always rains. Where's the rain? So I picked some stuff up at her house and I drove back to my house about an hour. I got in my door and got as far as my kitchen, and it was the day of Nancy Reagan's funeral, and a bunch of people in my townhome complex must have had the funeral on because
mhm,
out of all these windows I could hear bagpipers singing, playing Danny Boy. And I'm
oh,
very Irish, so that's it. So all this Danny Boy, right? And then Amazing Grace starts, and
yeah.
then all of a sudden this clap of thunder and it just starts to pour. And I was like, okay, there's the rain.
There it
And
is.
you can't, you know what I mean? And you think about it, if you think about it from a scientific atheist point of view, you think, well, how could that possibly happen? How could your mom make it rain? Or how could it all happen that all these things happen at once, make the clouds part? But, the universe works in beautiful and mysterious ways.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think there are ways that perpetually spirit gives folks the send off that they need and gives the families the comfort that they need.
Yeah, I think that we're all kind of woven in this beautiful tapestry, and I love when things can't be explained by science as we understand it currently. Like it's wonderful that there's still that magic in the world
Yeah.
because I feel like without that magic, the world's a little bit darker. I don't want to know the reasons for everything. I want things that can't be explained. I want wonder. I want magic, and I feel like when it comes to spirituality, that it's a wonderful side of that, and it's great that we don't know all those answers but that we get to experience them.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. Well, and as an EMT, you must have seen that around you all the time. I mean, you must have, you know what I mean? You must have a lot of memories of seeing things
Yeah.
in hospitals, or because there's just a lot of activity there, right?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I remember even when I was just doing my clinical time and you had to stay at the hospital, for so many shifts or whatever, and seeing the first person that I ever saw pass away and just seeing that light go out of their eyes. It's a very, significant and real thing. Like all of a sudden, here's someone who was just breathing moments ago. And then after that last breath, like the eyes look vacant, like that spark is gone.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said about how our soul, our energy animates these bodies while we're here. Like I mean, we've had this discussion before. In every lecture I say the same thing. We're spirits in a human experience. We're not from here, we don't stay here. But
Yes.
while we are here, we could probably do a lot better of helping each other out and not clawing and fighting with each other. So
Exactly.
That's where I try to focus my work now. Is like, as much as I love doing the paranormal research, and I'll continue to do it. Everybody that comes to any event, any lecture, they always get some motivational things thrown in there because I want to help people. I want to help spirits while they're still here, while they're still going through the earthly experience as well.
Yeah, I always say it's just like a semester of soul school,
Yeah.
where you know what I mean. Where and this is our uniform. And if you
Right.
don't believe that, watch someone die. Because when my mom passed, it was like I looked at the body and it looked like her, but it looked like if you went to a wax museum and there was a wax image of your mom.
Exactly.
It no longer even felt like her. And it's that instant, right? The soul
Right.
leaves and what's left is just like you took your clothes off and threw them on the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Strangest thing.
That waxy perplexion is amazing how quick it comes over.
Yeah, and suddenly it's just an empty vessel. And if you ever wondered if there was a soul, look at the difference in people when they're living and when they're not, and feel the difference in them. The vibrance is gone instantly, and there's not even any residue left. It's just done. I think that's fascinating, but I think it also helps us to understand how it all works. And to understand the complexity of, like you said, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, right? So sometimes our spiritual self can really understand the loss. Our human self still has a hard time with it because we want everyone to be here on the earth plane with us. And it's just understanding that life is about getting your spiritual self and your human self on the same page. And it doesn't happen all the time, right?
No. And I feel like sometimes there's some very young souls that have to go around a couple of times, I think, before they start to figure out that what we're here to do, And I feel like the further along you get in the journey, maybe you get to opt out of coming back. I don't know how the whole reincarnation thing works, but I do see sometimes I'm like, I feel like people sometimes need to come back again because they're so self-focused or they're so lost. They forget that how we're all kind of woven together and here to help each other out. And they miss the bigger spiritual experience. And so maybe you got to come back again to figure that out. I kind of hope that I'm getting a round off. I think I could use a break for this one. But I say that, I was walking last night in my neighborhood and I was watching as the Christmas lights and things are dwindling. People are taking them down. We're supposed to have a big storm this weekend, so they're almost gone. And I stopped. I've learned, just in this time, I've learned to always stop and take a longer look at things. And this is something that came about when I was doing the international ghost shows. I never knew if I'd be back to any of these countries again. I went to like 27 countries in 2 years.
Wow.
And although I do have, hopes of taking my wife and daughter, to Europe and Ireland and England, some of these places again, I don't think I'll probably, as much as I enjoyed it, I don't see it in the cards that I'll be going back to Singapore, or the Philippines, or Argentina. I don't have enough resources or time to do all those things. Right. So I would always stop to take one last look before I got on a bus or before I got to the plane, like one last look at the place and just really try to absorb that moment in your brain, And even last night, I was looking at the Christmas lights. I was like, you only get so many Christmases, you only get so many things and you never know which one's going to be your last. So although I would like a break from the human experience when that time comes, I want to make the most of all the ones that I still have while I'm going through it.
Yeah. It's funny how, like, if you're a Christmas person, and I so am, how sad you get when the lights start to dwindle. It really is. There is a thing about day after Christmas syndrome, right? And I don't take my lights down. My lights are up. Well, they might be up longer because it takes a while to get them down, but they glow until Epiphany. They don't go anywhere until the 6th of January. Because to me, Christmas is not over until Epiphany. It ain't over until the wise men come.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to me how many people take everything down the day after Christmas, like, oh, it's over. And I'm like, wow.
Unfortunately, as you know, I have Raisin, my beautiful Sphinx cat who I love.
Hey,
and she doesn't bother any ornaments. She's the best cat ever. Yeah. She looks down upon the other cats that do such things in my house. But because we have 5 others, the tree has to come down expeditiously because one of them will continue to chew on it and then proceed to vomit every day. So it's a pain. But I try to leave at least the lights outside, and I'd like to do it until. And the Epiphany is very important. And I like to also try to extend it to the 9th for Elvis's birthday, and then after that, it's like, okay, I'm done celebrating.
Okay.
celebrating
All right.
for now.
So I'll make sure this year to extend it to the 9th for Elvis's birthday.
Yeah,
My mom
but
would like that because she loved Elvis. One of the only times I ever saw my mother cry, she was a tough Irish lady who survived the Depression, an orphanage, all kinds of stuff, Dustin, was
yeah,
when I remember we were going on a trip, we were driving in the car, and it came on the radio that Elvis was dead, and my mother burst into tears.
wow,
And that's not anything that I ever thought I would ever see. But so I
yeah,
took a little bit of her ashes to Graceland, and I'm not saying I did, but I might have,
right,
because I
yeah,
know that's illegal, but I
yeah,
might have done the same on Hank Williams Memorial. Might have just
right.
done a little bit of this on that, maybe, just saying, but maybe not.
Maybe not.
Not saying for sure, but
Yeah, that's
yeah,
beautiful.
but I feel the same way. And, I talk a lot in my spiritual, I'm an interfaith pastor, and I talk a lot in my service. Um, and also a lot of my shows about the wise men, because I think what we're taught growing up, that they were like these rich guys and they came and brought gold and frankincense and myrrh, and because it was rich. But that's again an earthbound concept, right? The truth is the wise men were oracles, they were
Yeah.
psychics, and they followed a star to
Mhm.
go find this little guy who was going to be important. And gold and frankincense and myrrh, right, are three of the biggest elements for spiritual protection.
Yeah,
So they weren't bringing him money, they were bringing
right.
him safety.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I love that story. And my mother, even before she even talked about being a psychic herself, was always obsessed with the wise men. And for everything she had, and she had a nativity that looked like a Taylor Swift concert. There were so many beings in it, but there were always extra wise man things everywhere that were just on their own.
right.
Because what a wonderful story that these, magic people who
Mhm.
lived magic lives heard of this little guy being born and faced everything to travel, a great distance
Yeah,
to go bring some protection, because they know that whenever there's something of light, the darkness pays attention, right?
right. Yep, yep. And they even had to alter their path on the way back because they knew things were not as they appeared to be, and they didn't want to give away the location or anything of his birth. I mean, just amazing. It was funny because I remember setting up the nativity, like we had the little one, from like the little hardware store in my neighborhood. We had the small one we put on top of the counter, and I would always be hyper vigilant about the positioning of the magi. Just from a young age,
Interesting.
just that they were like. And I was having this conversation with my daughter the other day, like, what your favorite Christmas song is. And mine are God Rest You Merry Gentlemen and We Three Kings. Like, I just feel like, to me, that brings about the emotion that I connect to Christmas.
Oh my
That
God, Dustin, those are mine.
oh, really? Oh,
Those are mine.
wonderful.
God Rest You Merry Gentlemen is number one. And
Yeah,
I always, my spiritual services at that for December usually have something like about comfort and joy in them.
those are the best. Absolutely. There's a shrine here. There's a local Catholic shrine that I like to go to and walk and look at the lights and things. And I go there during the day too, where it's not so busy. And they have this one big board that says "Wise men still seek him," and then they have all the interfaith symbols underneath it. And I
I
just
love
think it's such a wonderful idea and concept to bring everything together with that type of unity, and the idea that people that are still wise in their ways understand that we need to search more for our spirituality, and not to ever be satisfied or become distracted by the things of this material world that we're told are so important, that are truly not what this life, what this soul class is really about.
right. Well, but isn't that, first of all, isn't that why we're here on the earth, to bring tidings of comfort and joy? I
Hmm.
mean, our whole soul mission can be summed up to that. The
Yeah.
other thing is that my nephew is a Santa Claus, so um, he is a professional Santa, and
Oh, nice.
he's my best friend's son, and they run the Santa Claus business in my hometown, and
Mhm.
go to people's homes and stuff and do all the charity stuff. So I had him on my show in December, and he was talking about what he calls the Santa priesthood, which is anybody who embodies the spirit of Santa,
Yes.
either at Christmas or throughout the year, and that there's certain things that are part of the Santa priesthood. And I've kind of adopted that now, and I think I'm kind of a Santa all year round, and my mother certainly was a Santa.
Yeah.
So we certainly consider ourselves part of the Santa priesthood.
I
Um,
love it.
there's no reason why we can't embody that that spirit, that the Christ consciousness mixed with the Santa's priesthood
Mhm.
ideology all year round. We should be living that all the time, right?
Yeah, totally. I took a picture last night that I was going to post today on my social media. I'll probably do it this evening. Um, as you mentioned before, like the day after Christmas feeling, like that's, I try not to ever work the day after Christmas because it's going from that emotional, spiritual high to, oh, back to this nonsense. And it's tough.
Yes.
But I took a picture last night of one of the Christmas trees, laying out by the curb because today was trash day and there's a bunch of them. And I feel like it's such a sad thing to see, and I just hope in my heart when I try to impress upon people is don't throw out your Christmas spirit with the tree. Hold on to that. Don't pack it up with the ornaments or decorations from whatever you celebrate. Keep that spirit alive. And this year, I started doing a new lecture called Santa Claus is Real, a lecture for adults. And we look into the true story of St. Nicholas and the stories of his kindness and the things that he did for others, and
I
how
love
that spirit is still very much alive, and how Santa is a very real thing, and how that spirit can embody us or almost possess us this time of year. But
it.
it's so important that we keep that glow alive and that we don't forget that Santa spirit as the year goes on, that we continue to look after others, to be kind to others, to be giving when we can, all those little things. Because I really believe, in how important that kindness is and the ripple effect of that kindness. Just this year, on my Patreon, I started something called the AOK Project, and it stands for the Acolytes of Kindness. And everybody, no matter what level they come in at my Patreon, because they have the different tiers, everybody always has access to the AOK. And what we do is we have weekly kindness challenges
Oh,
and
interesting.
things that we can do in our community to try to help others, to try to inspire others. And they're fun little things. Like we had Operation Candy Cane a couple of weeks ago, where you just had to get a box of candy canes, go to an office building parking lot, or go to a church or synagogue parking lot, and put all candy canes on the driver's side door handles. So when they come out, there's candy canes everywhere, like just random little things. Around Thanksgiving, it was take $5 and a note that says Happy Thanksgiving and stick it on a turkey. And there were people that were like, "Oh, I put it on the frozen ones and the fresh ones," so everybody had opportunity.
Oh, I
And
love that.
then we have
I
monthly
love that.
challenges for ourselves to raise our own internal
Yes.
vibration. So we're taking care of ourselves, and then each week we're taking care of others and working on that ripple effect of vibration of kindness and charity and goodwill. And it's nothing ever very expensive, but just little things to try to inspire each other and to keep that spirit of Saint Nick alive all year long.
Yes, I love that. And it's so important, right? Because we are supposed to be doing things for the world because that's our mission and our service, but we're also supposed to be doing things for us.
Right.
And I think sometimes people go too one way or way too the other way.
For sure.
We are, it's not, I always say, I teach a self-love workshop, and I always say self-love is not selfish. Self-love is the opposite of selfish.
Absolutely.
Because, if the plane starts to crash, you got to put your oxygen mask on first, and then you can save everyone else.
Yeah.
Self-love is putting your oxygen mask on first.
Yeah.
But you can't also get so caught up in your own earthbound and spiritual path that you forget that, yes, it's great to be on your own journey, but you're also here to feed into the whole.
Right.
Because the whole is everything, right? I mean, we're one human family, and we're one family of earthbound creatures, and we're all here to take care of each other.
Yeah. You need to put on your own oxygen mask, but you don't need 2 or 3. You
No.
can take one is enough, and that's a hard lesson. I mean, that's a hard lesson all around. Because you said some people go way too far one way or the other with it. And for many years, and this isn't like me trying to say, look how great I am, because I'm a complete screw up, but that's part of the experience, right? Like we learn. But
Sure.
for me, one of the hardest things I had to learn was to do that self-care. I would run myself right down to the ground,
Yes.
trying to make sure everything was always okay for everybody around me.
Yeah.
And I'd be useless to everybody else. And I have my YouTube series, Hey, Got a Minute. One of them is talking about that self-preservation. And I actually have an oxygen mask and stuff. For some reason, I was dressed as Socrates during that one. I don't remember how it
Socrates and oxygen mask.
The beard was really itchy, and I kept laughing, but it was a good video. But it's very important that remember that we do need to take care of ourselves, and sometimes you just got to shut down and get yourself back where you need to be before you can be of use or of service to others, which is so very, very important that we do that. But it is easy to lose our way. And one of my favorite quotes in one of my Christmas lectures, we have it based on Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And Fred Halliwell, who was Uncle Scrooge's his nephew, Scrooge Ebenezer Scrooge's nephew, they have a great exchange at one point where Uncle Scrooge is saying to his nephew Fred, why do you choose to be so merry at Christmas? You're poor enough. And he says to him in retort, he's like, well, what reason do you have to be morose, Uncle? Like, you're rich enough. And he says, although it may never put another coin in my pocket, I believe Christmas to be a good time. And I believe that it does good and will continue to do me good, because Christmas is that one time a year where people choose to open up their shut up hearts and look at each other as fellow passengers to the grave instead of strangers bound on other journeys. And that last part is so important. And that's why I think we need to keep that Christmas spirit all year long, that we're all fellow passengers to the grave. We're all here at this one timeline together, and we need to be cognizant of that and be thoughtful of that we aren't just strangers bound on other journeys, that the barista at the coffee shop doesn't cease to exist after you walk out that door. They still have their struggles, they still have their high points, they still have their low points, they still have their misery, and we need to be thoughtful of each other. The other day I was at the gym, and again, I share these things as points of inspiration, not as self-accolades. But the other day when I was at the gym, I was going to leave, and one of the girls that's always so like bouncy and full of life at the front desk, I could just see looked very forlorn. Like, even while I was doing my workout, I looked over, she just looked very sad, just not herself. And before I was leaving, I just said to her, I'm like, hey, you doing okay? And she said, oh, yeah, I'm fine. I didn't sleep last night. I was busy and I'm just exhausted today. And I was like, oh, okay, as long as I'm fine. Like, and as I left, I was like, I walked next door in the market there. They had a little Starbucks, and I don't know what she drinks for coffee. So I just got a thing of the chocolate covered cappuccino beans. I got that. And I got a candy cane and some and a cake pop. And I just, on my way back out, I brought that to her. I'm like, here, this will help you get through the day. Like, what it cost me, $5, $6, Yeah. But it was just the idea of like, just look out for each other. Like, let's all just try to be thoughtful of each other while we're here. Little things like that, make a difference.
Right.
Leaving the post office today, I saw a woman looking. I saw a woman today coming to the post office when I was leaving. I was getting some stamps during lunch, and she looked kind of like down, kind of angry. And she had a beautiful dress on, and she looked all like nice. I said, hey, I really like your dress. You look great. And she just smiled. She goes, oh, thanks so much. Just a random thing from a stranger, something that simple could really make or break somebody's day. So I just always try to look for those opportunities.
One time I was at a Hobby Lobby, and I saw the manager in this very bright pink shirt, right? It was so beautiful. And I walked up to him and I said, can I tell you something? And he looked at me like, oh God, here we go.
Gonna complain about the show.
That is the most beautiful color on you, and you look wonderful in it. And he kind of stopped and he said, nobody ever talks to me unless it's to complain about something.
Right.
So now I always talk to managers. The other day I was leaving World Market. I picked up something and I stopped and talked to the manager. I said, I just want you to know I'm in here all the time and your employees are great. And the same thing, when I first started talking to her, she was looking at me with this, like how when dogs look away from you because they're hoping you won't notice them. And,
right.
And she said the same thing. She said, oh my God, that's not what I thought you were going to say. And I said, no one talks to you unless they want to complain, right? She's like, absolutely.
Right.
So, stop and tell people, hey, you're doing a good job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, it takes no time out of your day to tell people that they're wonderful and you appreciate them. And, but I think somehow we've been taught on an earthbound way, Dustin, that if you do that, you're somehow like, don't give them the praise unless they deserve it, or don't tell, who cares? Just give them the praise. Who cares? Yeah. Who cares? You don't have to know their whole life story. They were nice to you for 5 minutes. Tell them how wonderful they are.
Absolutely. And like I try to tell people, we're just kind of planting a seed of kindness sometimes, Yeah. And you may never reap a benefit from it, which is fine. It's actually better, because you're just doing something without expecting something back. But you may never see that seed develop. You may never see it grow, But some people have become hardened, cold monsters because of the way they've been treated or mistakes that they've made, and they've never been able to make right with it. And they feel like no one ever sees them as good people. And by giving them that little bit of praise, like, yeah, it might not be your job to sit there and water that seed or to put sunlight on that seed of kindness, but you do your job, and the universe and the other people that are woven into that person's life will hopefully do the rest. And that's all we can do. And just continue to do that, continue to put that kindness out there. I work in surgery. I've worked in surgery for over 20 years. That's like the day job. And I got done this morning, and I've worked with this doctor for a long time. I got done this morning with one of my cases. Like, hey, really good job on that one. And it like meant a lot to me, like we do
Yeah.
5, 6 dates in the morning every day. But like the fact that he randomly chose to compliment me on something made me feel good. And I think those things go a long way. And it's very important that we do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and there's no reason why you shouldn't. You should tell everybody they did a great job after every surgery. That
Yeah.
should just be a natural. People should just think to be like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of times our society, our world has confused kindness with weakness. And I think that's why so many people keep that stone front up, because they're afraid of letting that light shine, or let people see them as maybe soft, or not, not difficult. And I just, it's such a tragedy to see that, because kindness is not weakness. It takes great strength to be kind in a world that's so hell bent on being cold and dark and miserable, because that's what's put out there. The doom scrolling that we do on the internet, on our phones, looking at all this miserable stuff, looking at all these people fighting, and to turn and show love in a dark place is maybe misconstrued as weak, but I think it's the strongest thing that you can do. And there's a phrase I use quite often called "hug the monster," and that came to me after seeing an old episode of Punky Brewster. It was a 2-part episode of Punky Brewster where kids were going missing or something in the woods, and Punky eventually confronts the monster. Instead of hating the monster and yelling and being angry at it, she shows it love and hugs the monster. And that's the only thing that allows change to happen, and
Yeah.
allows for, in the movie, in the show, for the kids to be released and all that. But I think that's such a great allegory for our own lives. Like, we're not
Yeah.
going to change anything by throwing darkness on top of darkness, by being
No.
hateful to those that are hateful. And yeah, maybe it's hard to forgive people, and maybe it's not something that's easy, but I think it's worth it. I think it's warranted to try to do that. And often when we forgive people, we let ourselves off the hook from carrying that burden. We feel better, if nothing else. So it's always good to be kind.
I agree 100%. And it's interesting that I know we talked about this the last time you were here. I had forgotten about Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, how it's my favorite novel. And I grew up reading it, watching it, loving it. I
Yeah.
never get sick of it, no matter how much I hear or see or read. I never get tired of it. I think I find new brilliance in it every single time I witness it. And my nephew, who his Santa is sort of modeled after Ghost of Christmas Present. He wears the long green robe, and
Oh, nice.
he doesn't have the hairy bald chest, though. I notice a lot of the adaptations have that. But he, we watched. He lives in London now, but he was here, and we watched, I don't know, 12 adaptations while he was here, a different one every night. The same ones we've seen a million times, but we just keep watching them.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, it should be a primer. That book should be a primer for humanity.
Yeah.
If you had to take a class about your own human path, that book would be required reading, because everything in it is so beautiful and so apropos and still holds up today, about the human experience, and how somebody can get the way that they are, but how you can change your life every day.
Yeah. That book, all the different plays, the adaptations, the movies, even when I do the lecture about it, always makes me cry, and I don't care, because I think it just resonates so deeply with me that it's just a human emotion, and that's completely fine. And
Yeah.
I'm glad to do it. I'm glad that people see it. And It's a Wonderful Life. It's a Wonderful Life is another one that always brings me to my knees. And talk about a story of, like you said, some people go too much the other way with it. And throughout that movie, I feel like George Bailey always gave of himself and never took. And I think that's a great example of forgetting to put the oxygen mask on yourself, to the point where he was tragically going to die by suicide, because he just had nothing left to give, and didn't think to ask anybody for help. Like, that was remarkable. And I think that is a very human error for many of us. We forget often that we can ask for help. And it's not a sign of weakness to ask for help. It's a great sign of strength to know, listen, I am down. The chips are out here. I need somebody to intervene and help me out, or at least listen to me. And I think that's so very important.
When you do your Christmas lectures, do you always do them at Christmas time?
I'm willing to do them whenever people want to hear them, because I feel like they transcend, the calendar. But usually bookings dictate, hey, it's September and October, we want you to tell ghost stories. It's November, December, tell us Christmas stories.
Right.
So, but I think it transcends time, personally.
Do you find that it's easy to get people to come out to something like that at Christmas time, that people are are wanting to learn and wanting to listen at Christmas time as opposed to just wanting to go ice skating or go shopping or whatever?
I do, and it seems to be a generational thing, and I think that and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it really speaks to our human experience too, because when I was a young teenager, I didn't want to go sit in a library and listen to some random person tell me insights to a Christmas Carol. Like, who the hell cares? I wanted to go chase girls and have drinks, you know. But as we get older, we learn that maybe some things that were a lot of fun, or maybe are still fun, aren't as important to us on our journey. And some of the libraries book me for teen programs, and they're never very well attended, unfortunately, because most teenagers aren't into this kind of stuff. But the adult programs, the nursing homes and stuff, the elderly love this kind of thing. And
Yes.
I think it works for me too, because I'm 46, but I think inside my soul is like 120, and I rage against technology, and I'm angry about the way the world is and how nobody pays attention to each other. Uh, but I do find it, yeah, it's easier to get people to come out to that type of event around those time of years. But I do try to get the libraries and the conventions to understand that this kind of stuff really does work well if people are open to it. And even like my paranormal events, as I mentioned, like I always put motivational things in there, but this year I started launching an event called Spirit Quest, where it's low tech. We're not sitting here talking to blinking lights and radio frequencies all night.
Right.
It's understanding our own personal journey. Why are we interested in spirituality? Why are we interested in ghosts? It's such a human thing for us to want to know what comes next. And I think that people come to these events and they've told me, like, this is not what I expected, but it was much more what I needed. And
Yeah.
I try to get them. I joke around. I'm like, I invented a ghost hunting event where we never ghost hunt.
Right. Yes.
But I think people get so much more out of it. Like we did the Conjuring House just couple of weeks ago, and I investigated there like 10 years before the movie, so it's never been the Conjuring House to me. And once people come in there, I'm like, 95% of what you saw in the movie is absolute nonsense, so just put that out of your mind. And we go out into the woods and we do tribal drumming, and we communicate with nature and the native spirits that are there. I'm like, this is a huge part of what goes on here that never gets spoken about, but this is the part that I think is the most important. And just getting people to stand out in the woods in the middle of the night and look up at the stars, and to realize how tall the trees are and how small we are, and all the big worries that we have in this life kind of drift away when you realize your position in this world. And
Yes.
we don't take time for that because our lives are so hurried. We're so hell bent on distraction, and there's no time to be quiet, because
Right.
we have bills to pay, we have things to do, we've got dinner to make, we've got credit cards to look at, we've got stupid things on TikTok that all of a sudden took up 2 hours of our life. But if we can stay quiet, if we can get away from the noise, if we can get out in nature, we did one in New Jersey. I had everybody take their shoes off and go walk around outside underneath the full moon and ground ourselves and feel that energy connection. Because what do? We wear sneakers, we wear shoes all day. We're constantly insulated and isolated from the natural energy of the earth. And think about how happy you were when you were a barefoot, stupid kid running around when the world still was bright color and the sun was yellow, drinking out of random hoses in people's yards because you were thirsty.
Yeah.
Like, you were happy then. And think about that connection you always had with the energy of nature, because you were out in it and you weren't just wearing shoes all day, sitting in an office under, friggin' neon lights. Neon lights, you'd be in a bar, but fluorescent lights. Not that there's anything wrong with being in a bar during the day either, but you usually don't have that opportunity.
Right.
But
Right.
I was telling
I grew up at the water. I was always lived on the water. So I'm from Connecticut and grew up on Long Island Sound, and then we lived near Lake Michigan, and then the Chesapeake Bay, and now the Pacific Ocean. My dad was an amateur boat builder, so wherever we moved to, it had to be somewhere he was accessible to bake a 30-foot wooden sailboat in our garage.
Nice.
I still don't wear shoes as much as I probably should, because I never wear shoes in the house. And or when I wander around my yard, hardly ever, unless there's something out there I think is going to hurt my feet.
Yeah.
And here at the beach, people don't. And it's because of that, because you're here at the ocean. I live a quarter mile from the ocean, and you want to be in the middle of that. You want to feel the pulse of the ocean all the time. You want to have your toes in the sand. It's just part of of what is natural here.
Mhm. Yeah. Yep. And it brings us back to who we were meant to be. We were, as I understand, as the world's developed, there are certain things we have to do or whatever. But I just feel like our natural element is not the way we live currently. Like, yeah, we want shelter, and I mean, I'm all about modern convenience. I love a hot shower at the end of the day,
Yeah.
but I feel like we are so distracted by all the things, and I get so frustrated with it. Like, I'm like, oh, let me watch. The other day, I was like, oh, before Christmas, like, I want to watch Rudolph, and I try to catch it, when they run it that one time on CBS when things were truly special. You would have to wait for that one night.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
this year I was off doing a lecture, so I didn't get to. I was like, I'm sure it's on one of these stupid apps or streaming things, and like, I got to scan the QR thing, then I got to get a password. I'm like, this is stupid. Like, my wife laughs at me. She's like, why do you get so mad? I'm like, because it's ridiculous. I'm like, in the modern age, the guise of convenience, nothing could be more inconvenient. I was like, just give me my DVD player, and I can watch it right away. But now I got to jump through 9 hurdles before I could possibly watch it. And I pay Apple TV every month, but yet Apple TV still wants $4.99 for me to watch this. I'm like, it blows my mind. I'm like, everything's so convenient that it's inconvenient, and I can't stand it.
Yeah, you truly you do have a grumpy old man side, Dustin.
I do.
You definitely you said everything there except get off my lawn.
It's I had that conversation recently with one of the Amazon drivers. I'm like, you're not supposed to walk across the lawn. That's not how that works.
I don't really understand myself, and I'm going to have my grumpy old lady moment. The purpose of a username and password, if they're still going to send a code to your phone or make you put in a CAPTCHA or prove you're not a robot for 10 minutes. Like, why do I have a username and password? Then just bypass that and just make me prove I'm not a robot.
Every time. Yeah. If you're going to send me a code every time anyway, let's just do the code.
I saw this really funny stand-up routine the other night, and the guy said, who would ask you to put in numbers to prove you're not a robot? Because I'm thinking it was a robot that would ask you.
Absolutely. Yep.
And it's, we're trying to prove we're not robots while a robot's asking us that.
Yeah. It's so frustrating. It really is.
It has become, I understand it's all for security and we're trying to keep things secure.
Yeah.
But it does seem now like just logging into anything for any reason is now a 10-minute process. And as busy as I keep my life, I'm like, man, do I have 10 minutes just to log into my bank account and look at my statement?
Right.
So,
and you have to do this. Like, I have a lecture called How Soon Is Now, and it's all about time, our understanding of time, and how we perceive it, how we use it, how we misuse it. And like, I get frustrated because I'm like, all these 10 minutes add up. Like, and if I do it 6 times during the day, I've wasted an hour of my life that I will never get back because I had to download things and I had to upload things and I had to prove I'm not a robot and I had to change my password. And then when I change my password, it says you can't use your old password. Why am I here in the first place? Because I thought I knew the password. And just wasting. I went to get a sandwich. Seems simple. I went to park to get a sandwich and it's pouring rain. I get out. I have to go to pay the meter. Doesn't take money. You need to scan the QR code and you need to download an app. And then you need to take a picture of your vehicle, and then you need to pay it with your bank account. I'm like, can I just risk running to the sandwich shop and back? Like, what are the chances there's going to be an officer here? But I know my chances. I'm going to end up paying a $30 parking ticket. But instead, I'm standing in the rain for 10 friggin' minutes, taking pictures of my thing and uploading this. I'm like, I just wanted a sandwich. I just wanted to park here. I already paid taxes. I paid the excise tax for the car. I paid for the roads that aren't fixed. I paid taxes when I bought the car. I'm just trying to give you another 75 cents, and you're busting my chops here for 10 minutes. And now I have another app I don't need.
Yes, and I just went through the same thing trying to put air in my tires. I'm like, really?
Right.
And I had to pay $2 for air, and it took 20 minutes to pay $2 for air. Just to put air in the tires. Yes, yes.
Not inconvenience.
Insane. You are adorable, my friend. I love having you here. Let's do this again soon. Thank you for gracing my show with your presence once again. And I'm honored you were my first guest here on the new network. That's so exciting.
I am honored. Thank you so much, Sheena. I appreciate the opportunity.
I hope to see you out and about somewhere at a conference or something this year. Let's find some fun stuff to do together. I'd love that.
That would be grand, dear. Thank you so much. And thanks everybody for watching tonight.
Where can people find you online, my friend?
Very simple, at DustinPari.com. That's P-A-R-I. DustinPari.com is where you can find me. There's links to all my events there, all my social media. Everything's always just Dustin Pari. And if you want to be a part of the Acolytes of Kindness Project, go to patreon.com/DustinPari and join me there.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much. And if you want more information about Dustin, you want that information again, or you want more information about me, SheenaMetalSpiritual.com. That's SheenaMetalSpiritual.com. Send me a text, 818-437-0886. Let's be connected and get to know each other better. Come in and know me better, man. There's my Christmas Carol quote for you. 818-437-0886, and on my social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, and of course Twitter's now X, at Sheena Metal everywhere. Till I see you next time, next Wednesday at 3:00 Pacific time, only on Parapod TV. Seek peace, live in love, lead with kindness, embrace unity, always work to not only raise your vibration, but the vibration of those around you, because those two things will raise the vibration of the everything. And know that you are loved, and you are loved. That's the most important thing, that you are loved by me. Thanks to my wonderful engineer and producer, Emery. He is the wind beneath my wings. And to the beautiful Tony Sweet, who owns Parapod TV and also airs my Wednesday at 2 p.m. Messages from Spirit show. I'm Sheena Metal. This is the Sheena Metal Experience. I'll see you next time. Stay beautiful, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.